Imagine living in a world where the more someone pushes you toward a decision, the more you want to do the opposite. A world where the human mind secretly craves freedom above almost everything else. Reverse control. The 14 Laws of Reverse Psychology explores this hidden truth about human behavior and reveals why people often resist direct influence, even when advice is good for them. The book begins with a simple but powerful idea. People hate feeling controlled. Deep inside every person exists a strong desire to choose their own path. The moment someone feels that freedom is threatened, a psychological force awakens. This force pushes them to reclaim their independence, often by doing the exact opposite of what they are told. This reaction is not always logical. It is emotional. It is instinctive. And it shapes countless decisions every day. The author explains that reverse psychology works because human beings value autonomy more than they realize. When someone says, "You probably can't do that," a hidden fire often ignites inside the listener. Suddenly, proving the statement wrong becomes a personal mission. The challenge feels irresistible. The desire to defend freedom becomes stronger than the original goal itself. As the journey unfolds, the book reveals that reverse psychology is not simply about manipulation. It is about understanding the emotional mechanics of resistance. Every person carries an invisible need to feel powerful, respected, and in control of their choices. When these needs are threatened, resistance emerges naturally. One of the central lessons is that direct pressure creates direct resistance. The harder you push someone toward an action, the harder they often push back. Parents experience this with children. Managers experience it with employees. Couples experience it in relationships. The more force applied, the stronger the opposition becomes. Human beings do not like feeling trapped. The book paints vivid emotional examples. A teenager who is forbidden from seeing a certain friend suddenly values that friendship more than ever. An employee who feels micromanaged loses motivation despite having talent. A customer pressured to buy becomes suspicious and walks away. In each case, the resistance is not about the actual decision. It is about protecting personal freedom. As the story continues, readers learn that curiosity is one of the most powerful tools of reverse psychology. When information is partially hidden, people become desperate to discover it. The forbidden becomes fascinating. The unavailable becomes valuable. Human minds are naturally drawn toward mystery. This explains why exclusive opportunities feel attractive. It explains why limited edition products sell quickly. It explains why secrets spread rapidly. People want what appears difficult to obtain because scarcity triggers emotional desire. The mind interprets rarity as importance. The book also explores the emotional impact of challenges. People often underestimate themselves until someone questions their abilities. A challenge awakens pride. Pride fuels determination. Determination creates action. When someone says, "You probably won't finish this project," the statement can transform ordinary effort into extraordinary commitment. Suddenly, the goal becomes personal. Success is no longer about achievement. It becomes about proving something to others and to oneself. Another fascinating lesson focuses on identity. Human beings work tirelessly to protect the stories they believe about themselves. If someone sees themselves as independent, intelligent, or strong, they will resist anything that threatens that identity. This is why reverse psychology often works. Instead of commanding behavior, it gently invites people to prove who they already believe they are. The influence feels self-directed rather than externally imposed. The book repeatedly emphasizes that emotions drive decisions far more than logic does. Most people imagine they make rational choices, but emotional reactions often guide behavior long before logic arrives to justify it. Reverse psychology succeeds because it operates beneath conscious awareness, speaking directly to emotional needs. Fear plays an important role throughout the book. Fear of losing freedom. Fear of appearing weak. fear of missing opportunities. These fears quietly influence countless decisions. The author explains that people rarely move away from comfort without emotional reasons. Logic may provide explanations, but emotion provides energy. Reverse psychology leverages that energy by creating emotional tension that people naturally seek to resolve. Relationships receive significant attention as well. The book argues that many conflicts arise because people try to control each other directly. One partner demands change. The other partner resists. The cycle repeats endlessly. However, when pressure disappears, resistance often disappears too. The lesson is surprisingly simple. People become more cooperative when they feel respected. They become more open when they feel understood. Freedom encourages trust. Trust encourages influence. Throughout the narrative, readers are reminded that influence is strongest when it feels invisible. The most effective persuaders rarely force. They guide. They create environments where people convince themselves. This principle appears everywhere in life. Great leaders inspire rather than command. Great teachers encourage discovery rather than dictate conclusions. Great marketers create desire rather than demand purchases. The book reveals that self-persuasion is far more powerful than external persuasion. When people arrive at conclusions themselves, commitment becomes stronger. Ownership increases. Motivation grows naturally. Another emotional insight explores the role of ego. Human beings want to feel important. They want their opinions respected. They want acknowledgement. When someone attacks another person's beliefs directly, resistance intensifies immediately. Defenses rise. Conversations become battles. But when individuals are allowed to preserve dignity, openness increases dramatically. Reverse psychology often succeeds because it protects the ego while subtly guiding behavior. The author also warns about ethical boundaries. Understanding reverse psychology creates influence, but influence carries responsibility. The techniques described can help motivate, inspire, and encourage positive growth. Yet they can also be misused for selfish purposes. The book urges readers to pursue influence with integrity. True power is not controlling others. True power is helping people discover their own motivation. One particularly emotional section examines how people sabotage themselves. Sometimes, the strongest resistance is directed inward. Individuals set goals, create plans, and dream of better futures. Yet fear, doubt, and insecurity create internal opposition. The mind becomes both the driver and the brake. Reverse psychology can even work against oneself. By challenging personal limitations, individuals often unlock hidden determination. Telling yourself, "Maybe I'm not capable," can sometimes provoke a fierce desire to prove otherwise. The challenge activates resilience. As the book approaches its conclusion, a deeper message emerges. Reverse psychology is ultimately a study of freedom. Human beings are not machines that respond predictably to commands. They are emotional creatures driven by needs for autonomy, significance, belonging, and self-expression. Every attempt to influence another person succeeds or fails based on how well these needs are understood. The author argues that the greatest influencers in history understood this truth instinctively. They recognized that people must feel ownership over decisions. They understood that inspiration is stronger than force. They knew that freedom and influence are not opposites. They are partners. The final chapters leave readers with a powerful realization. Most resistance encountered in life is not personal. People are not necessarily rejecting ideas, opportunities, or relationships. Often they are simply defending their sense of control. This understanding transforms the way readers view human behavior. Frustration becomes empathy. Conflict becomes comprehension. Judgment becomes curiosity. Instead of asking, "Why are they resisting?" readers learn to ask, "What freedom are they protecting?" That single question changes everything. In the end, reverse control. The 14 Laws of Reverse Psychology is far more than a book about persuasion. It is a book about human nature. It reveals the invisible emotional forces that shape decisions, relationships, leadership, business, and personal growth. Its deepest lesson is both simple and profound. People rarely want to be controlled, but they desperately want to feel understood. The moment you respect that truth, influence stops being a struggle and becomes a natural conversation between two human beings searching for freedom, dignity, and meaning. And perhaps that is the greatest law of all. The less you try to control people, the more powerfully you can inspire them. The book's emotional depth becomes even more powerful when it explores the hidden battle between desire and resistance. Every person wants success, happiness, love, and achievement, yet many unconsciously resist the very actions that could bring those things closer. This contradiction is one of the great mysteries of human behavior. Reverse psychology shines a light into that mystery. The author explains that resistance is often born from fear rather than logic. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of losing control, fear of discovering that reality may not match expectations. When people feel these fears, they often disguise them as excuses, skepticism, or opposition. On the surface, it appears they are rejecting an opportunity. Beneath the surface, they may simply be protecting themselves from disappointment. This understanding changes the way readers see others. The stubborn employee may not be difficult. The hesitant customer may not be uninterested. The rebellious teenager may not be disrespectful. Each may simply be protecting something emotionally important. One of the most memorable ideas in the book is that people often value what they earn more than what they receive. When something comes too easily, appreciation fades quickly. But when effort, struggle, and personal choice are involved, attachment grows stronger. Reverse psychology taps into this principle beautifully. Rather than handing someone a conclusion, it allows them to arrive there themselves. The destination becomes meaningful because the journey belonged to them. The book compares this to climbing a mountain. Imagine being carried to the summit by a helicopter. The view may be beautiful, but the emotional reward feels limited. Now imagine reaching the same summit after hours of climbing through exhaustion, uncertainty, and determination. The view becomes unforgettable because you earned it. The same principle applies to decisions. People become more committed to choices they believe they made independently. As readers move deeper into the narrative, another fascinating truth emerges. People are strongly motivated by what they might lose. The pain of losing freedom, status, opportunities, or relationships often feels stronger than the pleasure of gaining them. This emotional reality explains why warnings can sometimes be more persuasive than promises. A person may ignore potential rewards, but react immediately when faced with potential loss. The author carefully demonstrates how this principle appears in everyday life. Businesses create urgency through limited time offers. Leaders emphasize risks to encourage action. Individuals suddenly appreciate relationships when they fear losing them. Human beings are emotionally wired to protect what matters to them. The book then shifts towards social influence and group behavior. People often imagine themselves as independent thinkers, yet they are deeply influenced by those around them. The opinions of friends, family, co-workers, and society quietly shape countless decisions. However, there is a paradox. People want to belong, but they also want to remain unique. This tension creates opportunities for reverse psychology. If someone feels their individuality is threatened, they may move away from the crowd. If they feel excluded, they may move toward it. Understanding this balance helps explain trends, movements, and even personal relationships. The author describes how skilled influencers never attack a person's independence. Instead, they align influence with the person's existing identity and values. This approach feels natural rather than controlling. Another emotional chapter focuses on confidence. Confidence cannot be forced upon someone. It must be discovered internally. Reverse psychology often works because it awakens dormant confidence through challenge. When someone hears, "You probably aren't ready for this," an inner voice may respond, "Watch me." That response is powerful because it comes from within. Motivation generated internally is usually stronger than motivation imposed externally. The book argues that some of the greatest achievements in history were fueled by doubt. Inventors, athletes, entrepreneurs, and artists frequently face people who question their abilities. Those doubts became fuel rather than obstacles. In this sense, resistance can become a gift. Every challenge contains the potential to awaken strength that would otherwise remain hidden. Toward the final sections, the author explores the importance of emotional intelligence. Understanding reverse psychology requires understanding people. It requires observing fears, desires, motivations, and insecurities without judgment. The goal is not manipulation for personal gain. The goal is deeper awareness. People often communicate more through emotions than through words. Someone may say they are fine while feeling overwhelmed. Someone may claim they do not care while secretly longing for recognition. Someone may reject an opportunity while desperately hoping for encouragement. Those who understand these emotional layers gain insight into human nature itself. The book concludes with a message that feels surprisingly hopeful. Influence is not about winning arguments. It is not about forcing compliance. It is not about controlling minds. True influence begins with respect. When people feel respected, they lower their defenses. When they feel understood, they become open. When they feel free, they become willing to explore possibilities. The greatest persuaders are not those who dominate conversations. They are those who create environments where others feel safe enough to think differently. The ultimate lesson of reverse control, the 14 laws of reverse psychology, is that every human being is searching for autonomy, dignity, and meaning. Resistance is often a signal, not a problem. It signals a desire for freedom. It signals a need for ownership. It signals the deep human longing to choose one's own path. By understanding this truth, readers gain more than knowledge of persuasion. They gain a new perspective on relationships, leadership, communication, and personal growth. And perhaps the most powerful realization of all is this: people rarely remember how strongly you pushed them, but they never forget how strongly you empowered them to choose for themselves.